Is it finally here? Do we now have a bass Lord IEM at the budget level? Well... Hello and thank you for clicking on this video where I'll be sharing my experience on the 7hz Legato. We finally have another entry in this series, and since this is coming from 7hz, who is famous for creating the Timeless and the SoundNote Zero, I'm excited to see what they did with the Legato. But before we dive deeper into this IEM, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank once again to Linsoul for providing this unit in exchange for my honest feedback. Do consider checking them out and supporting them as they have supported me and this channel, but rest assured they will have no influence over my feedback. And if you've been enjoying the content, do consider hitting that like and subscribe button. And if you'd like to support my channel further, I do have a Patreon page for this channel as well. With that all out of the way, let's talk about accessories. This is now becoming one of 7hz staples above $100, the big carry pouch, which is more like a travel pouch to put in a backpack for your IEMs rather than something you carry around your pocket because it is huge. However, I can put 2 IEMs into this case as long as you remove the additional layer inside, and honestly, I'm really happy with this. They even went out of their way to give you that fake timber look. Still looks really fake, but the red with the gold color scheme plays well together. It comes with interchangeable silicone ear tips, which is way better than what they provided for the 7hz Legato, because honestly those plastic feeling ear tips felt really horrible. So I'm glad for this change, and of course you get the cable, which actually doesn't feel too bad. It's a plastic braided feel which is on the thicker side going around the cable, and the shine gives it a little gunmetal like design, and with the right angle and lighting there's a bit of red going on too, so it's a very nice looking cable. If only it ended in the 4.4mm termination. For design, comparing this to the Timeless, the Legato, the Eternal, the Legato probably has the most subtle design out of all those IEMs, yet it looks the best for me. Simple curves on the IEM, the groove on the IEM which creates this pattern and lighting when light reflects on the surface. It's clean, it's simple, it's nice. This IEM embodies the phrase less is more. It does look a little chunky from the side, but rest assured it doesn't fit like what you think it would be from the size of this IEM. Let's talk about that. For fitting comfort, this nozzle is pushed out a bit, so it heavily relies on the ear hook and your ear tips to make this secure in your ear. But once it's in, it's pretty comfortable, and I personally don't feel like it's coming out, even though it looks like it is on camera because of how the nozzle is positioned, and the edges are not touching my ears at least, so I don't feel any surrounding pressure. With that all out of the way, let's talk about sound. For bass, let's get this out of the way. There is only one reason to get the 7hz Legato, and one reason only, and that is bass. Bass, baby, yes, gimme all that bass.
I'm all about that bass, bass.
If you've been wanting a preview of how Fat Freak's Maestro IEM's bass sound like, but you've been searching for a more affordable version, here's the 7hz Legato. Reason I say preview is because the Maestro IEM from Fat Freak are still bass overloads for me. The Maestro still rumbles a little deeper than the Legato, but nevertheless, the Legato still rumbles deep. And when it slams hard. Every beat from Billie Eilish's Bad Guy is a gigantic stomp. In fact, it's catching up with the Maestro Mini in terms of punch and slam. The sub bass helps give it that texture, that weight. It's still full, rounded, and hard. If anyone is looking for a bass hit IEM below $150, the 7hz Legato is gonna take that spot. What an experience. I can go on and on about the bass experience, but I'll just put a stop to it right now and end it with one word. Marvelous. However, this is where the praise stops and the criticism begins for me personally. Alright, here we go. For mid-range, typically when there is this much bass in the sound profile, some IEMs are tuned in a way where the mid-range is brought slightly more forward so it stands either in front of the bass or at least in the same plane as the bass so it doesn't get overwhelmed. Unfortunately, that's not the case with the 7hz Legato. The mid-range is slightly recessed, so vocals loses its presence because the bass is just so prominent and dominating that it overshadows the rest of the mid-range a little bit. There are still mids, sure, but they sound like they are taking a back seat to the track rather than being a highlight. The best way I could describe this experience is like being in a small club and the band is just hitting those drums hard. You can see the singer singing at the top of their lungs, but it's simply overpowered because you're just that close to the instruments. When there isn't any bass in the tracks, then sure, it's all good, but once the beats hit and the rumble begins, it simply takes over your attention. At least it did for me. Definitely not an IEM to recommend if you prefer vocal focused tracks. For treble, legato by definition means musical notes that are played or sung smoothly and connected. That name should have been a dead giveaway because the treble on this IEM is indeed smooth and extremely forgiving. I'm raising the dial on my amp, but I'm not getting any hint of sibilance. For me personally, that famous or infamous treble from the timeless, depending on who you are, is not present on the legato at all. They've also reduced the treble extension of the legato, which again makes for a smoother listening session, but what it actually did was suck out the soul of my favorite instruments. The trumpets. Oh, my beautiful trumpets. They sounded blunted, veiled, and I think someone is choking the trumpeter, or at least put him in the last row because it's not clear, it's not distinct. This IEM is also not for instrument-specific tracks in my humble opinion. Smooth, sure, but I think that it's a little too forgiving for my liking. For imaging and separation soundstage, left and right position is average. To be honest, it's really hard to fully pinpoint where the positions of the sounds are when you're surrounded by all that bass, which is to say, there's a lot of bass details, sure, but the bass tend to overwhelm all other details in the frequency as mentioned earlier, so I guess it really depends on what you want to hear. Are you more focused on the rumbles and bass drums, the thumps, the bumps? Then sure, legato. But if you like the presence of the higher frequencies details like cymbals, hi-hats, little subtle nuances, then you'd be a little bit disappointed. So with that, it lacks the amount of separation and the entire presentation as a whole sounded a little blended together. The best analogy I can come up with is the difference between a McDonald's chocolate and vanilla soft serve ice cream before and after you've done licking the whole thing. One has a clear definition between chocolate and vanilla, and the other is just a blended mix of both. If you don't eat ice cream, then I guess this analogy will fly past you. Don't worry, I've got another one coming in my conclusion. For source, on my Hi-Fiman EF400, I get to about 10 or 11 o'clock on the dial, which is relatively high, but I can still get about 80% volume on my phone for it to be pleasantly loud. So to sum it all off, if all you care about is bass and nothing else, literally nothing else, just bass, that's all you want. Give me soul-sucking, ground-shaking, brain-busting bass, or even if you want something smooth, just smooth. Think like the most decadent chocolate gelato, that smoothness where when you lick that ice cream, it just glides into your tongue smooth and the chocolate flavor just punches through to your brain and all you think about is that chocolate, even though you ordered like 3 other flavors in there, but all you taste is chocolate. Then here you go, 7hz Legato. It just goes to show that it's actually quite difficult to achieve this kind of tuning without the introduction of more drivers, because you need those drivers to carry all the other frequencies through all that bass. And I shall wait for the day that we will be given an affordable version of the Maestro series, but for now, Maestro owners can unclench their cheeks now because the Maestro still stays where they are, but anyone wanting a bass hit IEM at an affordable price can rejoice because we finally have one. Again.
Because you know I'm all about that bass, no trouble.
However, this is based on one man's experience and I'm curious to know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Will the 7hz Legato be your new favorite bass hit IEM? Or which bass hit IEM is your favorite? Comment below, let me know, and until the next experience, take care and happy listening.